This is lesson number 93 in Algebra 2, and it's called the discriminant. And this isn't really too bad. I think you'll find that this is a pretty easy lesson. All right, back in lesson 70, you learned quadratic formula. And you're like, oh my gosh, really, we're going back to this? We will always go back to this. Okay. Learn the quadratic formula. Now, this part of the quadratic formula is called the discriminant. Discriminant. Sorry about that, golly. I can't put my wrist on the iPad, so I'm writing without my hand resting anywhere, so my letters get to be very hard to read sometimes. Let's erase that. That's embarrassing. All right, so that's the discriminant. B squared minus 4ac. Okay, so looking at what b squared minus 4ac gives you, because when you're doing the quadratic equation, that's the first part you're going to solve, right? You're going to put in all the numbers for the a, b, and the c, but you're going to solve what's under the radical sign first. You're going to solve the discriminant first. And when you solve the discriminant, you are going to get a possibility of 4 different kinds of answers. Okay, I'm not saying you're going to get 4 different answers. You're going to get an infinite number of answers depending on what A, B, and C are. But all of those numbers are going to fit into 4 categories. When you do 4b minus 4ac and you put all the numbers in there, you're going to get a negative answer, possibly. So the answer that's under that radical might be like a negative 3. Okay, you're going to get 0. So when you put in b squared minus 4ac, and you might get 0 for an answer. Let's say that you get a number like the square root of 29. Okay? So what is that? That's a positive number that's not a positive square, or a perfect square. That means it's a positive number, whereas this one was a negative. It's a positive number, but you can't take the square root of that. Okay, so you would get a, how would we write that? A positive number, no square root. You can't take the square root of it. So it'd be like a positive 29. You could also get a positive number that you can take the square root of. And you yes to the square root. So those are your 4 possible answers. You're going to get a negative number when you take b squared minus 4ac. You're going to get 0. You're going to get a positive number with no square root that you can't take a square root of. Or you're going to get a positive number that you can take the square root of. Those are your only 4 options there. Sorry about that background noise. My wife is drying her hair early this morning. So those are your 4 answers. 4 types of answers. So when you're doing your b squared minus 4ac and you plug numbers in, what if you get a negative 2 when you plug numbers in there and you get negative 2? So you've got a square root, from this here, and your discriminant is what's under the square root, and that's a negative 2. So the square root of negative 2. So there's your negative number you're going to get in there. Sometime you might get, instead of, I can't erase. Once I turn on the little pointer thingy, it takes away my ability to erase. So what if instead of the square root of negative 2, you got the square root of 0? Okay, that would be this type of number. Or it could be that when you take the square root, or you take the discriminant, you get the square root of a non-square rootable number, like 31. You can't take the square root of that. Okay, that's another possibility. The other possibility is that you got the square root of 25, which when you take the square root of 25, you get 5. So the square root disappears. Okay? So those are your 4 different options as far as your numbers are concerned. So let's kind of put a table together, because based on the optional answers you get, or based on the answers you get, that will determine what kind of an answer you get. So, I'm going to take a picture here from another book, and I would suggest you write this down because it's not in your book. Okay, so there's the table. It's just like what we talked about. If I get an answer, if my discriminant is negative, so that means what's under the square root sign is negative. Okay, what does that mean? That means I'm going to get two complex roots containing I, because remember this is a plus or minus. So I'm going to get two roots, I'm going to get two numbers underneath the square root sign, and if it's negative, that means I'm getting an I, correct? So this is going to be plus or minus, pull out the I, square root of 4, or plus or minus 2I is part of my answer. So I might get maybe my negative b part of the quadratic formula. Maybe this is negative 6 plus or minus 2I over 3. And that would be my answer. So my answer is two complex solutions that contain I, if the number under the radical is a 0. Okay, so let's look at the second one. It says that what if my number under the radical sign is actually 0? So let's say it's 3 plus or minus the square root of 0 over 2. Well, anytime you have 0 into the radical, it all goes away and you just end up with 3 over 2. So if 0 is under my radical sign, I get one answer, because the plus or minus sign doesn't matter anymore because it's plus or minus 0 and that doesn't mean anything. So I get one answer. Alright, the next option is, what if I get under that radical sign a positive number that is also a perfect square, a positive number that I can take the square root of. Alright, so if I can do that, that means I'm going to get, let's say, 3 plus or minus the square root of 36 over 3. There's my discriminant. It's a positive and it's a perfect square, so I get 3 plus or minus 6 over 3, or over 3, so I get 3 plus 6 over 3, or 3 minus 6 over 3 for my answer. So I get two answers, and that's what it says here, two answers that are rational, and all that means is I don't have any imaginary numbers, okay? And I don't have any radicals. It just means that when I'm done, I get a regular old number like 9 over 3 or negative 3 over 3, okay? What if, and this is the last one, let's see if I can erase some of my ink here. What if I have a positive number under my radical sign that is not a perfect square? So any positive number I cannot take the square root of. Positive 10. Okay, so that's going to be a number, let's say 3 plus or minus the square root of 10 over 5. So I'm going to have two answers, and that's what it says here too. But if I can't take this number out of the radical sign, then I'm going to have a radical in my answer, and that's what irrational solutions are. An irrational solution means that I have a radical. Okay? So those are my four options. So all of that time to kind of talk you through all that, and you'll need this later on if you take college algebra. We're going to go over this again, so it's good to know this. And let's go ahead and do some problems, and we'll leave that little God, what, I can't even think. This little thing that I've got right here, we'll move that over to the side because we're going to use that. Because I'm asking you not what the answer is, I'm asking you what kind of a solution the answer is going to give us. So, what I'm interested in your answer is one of those four. Give me one of those four, and you've just given me the answer. So let's go ahead and look at example 93.1. And they give you x squared minus 4x plus 2. We're not looking for the answer. We're looking for what kind of an answer it is. I'm talking and writing and not writing everything down. There's the example. Let's put it in the correct form. You always have to set it equal to 0 to use the quadratic formula. But we're not using the whole quadratic formula. We're only using this part of it. So let's put 4 in for b. What's my a? My a is 1 in front of the x squared. My c is negative 2. Okay, let's solve that. 16, negative and a negative give me a positive, equals positive 24. I don't care what the answer is. I don't care that it's a 24. I just need to know what it looks like. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it 0? Is it a perfect square? You know, what is it? All right, so according to my handy-dandy little explanation up here, it is a positive number that is not a perfect square. I can't take the square root of 24. So my answer to this problem is 2 irrational roots, and I'm done. Okay, let's look at 93.2. Looks like I might be able to finish this up. I got a few minutes left. These videos can go up to 15 minutes before they explode. What kind of roots are negative 2x equals negative 3x squared minus 8? Put it in the right form. I'm going to move everything over to the left. And b squared minus 4ac, all I care about. So my b is negative 2. Put it in parentheses so you know to square it, so it becomes positive. Minus 4, a is 3, c is 8. So this is 4 minus 12 times 8 is 96 equals, and again, I don't care what the answer is, but looking at that, I know my answer is going to be negative something. I don't care what it is, but I do know it's going to be negative, and that's all I care about, because then I go up here and say, what kind of answer did I get? I got a negative answer. That means my answer is going to be 2 complex solutions containing I. That's what I want as far as your answer is concerned. 2 complex solutions containing I. Okay, and that's it for this lesson, is just plug the numbers into the discriminant, find out if the answers are going to be negative, 0, a positive number you can take the square root of, a positive number you cannot take the square root of, and then whichever one you get, you go over here, and that's your answer that they're looking for. That's it. So that's lesson number 94. No, that's lesson number 93. Okay, 94 will be the next one. This is 93.